So welcome everyone to Lockdown Live from Thixondale. We've brought you outside. It's an absolute beautiful winter's day today, really calm, really still. So we thought we'd bring you outside and see this beautiful landscape that I live in. It's absolutely stunning. This is one of my favourite views, looking this way. I'll duck down and you can see how nice it is. So this is on the edge of my garden. We've got a hedge running along here, and for birds and wildlife, they always tend to pick a high point. So if a barnhouse flying along this hedge line, they'll be tempted to sit somewhere that's a little bit higher. So if there's a fence post sticking out of the hedge, or a dead old broken down tree, they will generally tend to land up on here and then have a little look around. So this is somewhere that I've designed and built myself, that we're on a tower here, so my feet are about 8 feet off the ground, so we're quite high up here, and I've got a hide here just where the cameras and computers are now as well, and we've got a jet aeroplane just joining us as well. Yeah, so I'm going to talk today about why I created this area and the species that I see on here. So this was predominantly built for barn owls, kestrels. You can tell it's real and wildlife, real. We've got cars, we've got aeroplanes. So yeah, I'll let them pass just in case it's interrupting the sound. Yeah, so I built this predominantly for kestrels, barn owls, tawny owls, and Will's going to show you some of the footage that we capture here, and it's just been so rewarding. This is Bomber, our male tawny owl, and he's anyone watching the live feeds, this guy thinks he rules the valley. In actual fact, the buzzards do, and the kites, but as night falls, he definitely rules the valley. And this is one of our female kestrels coming in. So these are coming in and landing here, and the reason they come in here is I tie little bits of food down. You can see the odd little bit of food sticking up on camera. So this is the female kestrel coming in. And then we've got Barney, our male barn owl, just collecting a mouse there that I've put out for him, and he'll then head off down to the nest. So this has become, you know, become what I hoped it would be. I literally just had a scaffold pole with a little platform here before I built this thing. So I had an idea it was going to work, this structure, because I've already been feeding wildlife here up on a high pole, and I'd already attracted the kestrels and the barn owls, tawny owls, so I knew this would work. And then we get surprise visitors as well. We've got one of the stoat kits. This is the one I think that was in the barn owl tower the other day, one of our young male kits from this year, and he's come up for a little snack. And as we showed yesterday on the Lockdown Live, they're incredible climbers. Which one's this we've got, Will? Who've we got?
This is one of our unknown birds, and then we get somebody familiar comes in to take it.
We've got a ring there, haven't we? It's not one of our, oh, it's one of our girls, this one. Yes, this is one of the hands or greets. One of them had a feather broken by a bomber, but this is one of our chicks from this year, one of our barn owls. So she's coming in at night, and this is a great camera here because it's a higher speed IP camera that we've got that shoots at 50 frames a second, so we can slow everything down here by half speed, which can give us some really nice sort of moments. Yes, that's a little selection of some of the things that we capture here, but we've also captured some really unusual things here as well. It's not just the owls that come here. We've got a cock pheasant here just teetering on the edge. He's not come for food, but this is early morning, this shot. You can see the mist hanging in the valley, so we get some really beautiful views from here with this camera. And there's a female pheasant. So these again, we'll pick any high point to have a little perch on and a look around. And we've got a jackdaw here coming in to pinch a bit of food. So throughout the year we get all sorts. This is early spring, and we've got the goldfinches coming in here. Just got some pheasants in the background now. Yes, there's always something happening here. So other woodpecker, this is a female great spotted woodpecker, and she's a beautiful little bird but can create some problems. This is a young woodpecker, because they loved hammering on my sets and designs, whether it's one of my owl boxes with natural wood. They'll come and start hammering on this, but this is really hard piece. I think this is larch, a stump from a larch tree, and there's a lot of sap in this, so it keeps it well preserved. But we've got the woodpecker there again in the rain, so we catch things in all weather, all conditions. This is a special little bird, a red start. This is come from right down the valley. They nest down the valleys, and this is its young red start. So these are in the robin family, and they nest out in these valleys, especially where there's sheep and cattle, because they eat the flies that go on the dung. So these are little birds that are migrating from Africa. Stunning little things, rarely seen in gardens, but because we're so rural here. And this is a wonderful little bird again, the yellowhammer. Little bit of butter and no cheese is the song. Like that. Just like that. So super little bird. And then we get the usual things, but even funnier now, these woodpeckers, wood pigeons here, caught in. You know, I even like the common species, because they're real characters, these pigeons. They often use these areas to perch on as well. So it was built for the barn owls, the kestrels and tawny owls, but there's a never-ending supply of other birds. We've got this tree sparrow here, and these are fabulous little birds. We started off with 2 tree sparrows here over 20 years ago, and now we've got around about 100 here. So lots of nest boxes, lots of food. And this again is in early spring, gathering its nesting material. Yeah, fabulous little birds. Very proud of these little birds. Oh, a little wren coming in, and I like wrens so much. My daughter is called Ruby Wren, so she's been named after this bird. Cheeky and noisy, I think that sums my daughter up maybe. So yeah, but fabulous little birds, using this as a high point to sing. This camera we're using is actually designed for number plates. Ah, this is a good one. Can we replay that one, Will? It's coming in slow, that's it, slow down, we've got it. So this is a question that I had yesterday about red kites. These are absolutely massive birds, 5-foot wingspan, and we're just going to replay that again for you. So I had a question about red kites and whether we would get to see them, and this is about as much as we've ever seen of them. They've seen the kestrels here feeding, and they've started eyeing up the food, and literally they're swooping down trying to grab a piece and take a piece away. So they don't like to land on the ground unless they actually have to do. Yeah, but you can see the size of that bird. You know, this is quite big here. We're looking at a 5-foot wingspan coming through here. Yeah, so any questions coming through? Again, I'll answer all questions that come through, but you know, it's been a real pleasure to bring you outside on a day like this. It's not blistering sunshine or anything, but the weather we've had recently, this is quite a good day. It's really still. We can hear so many different things in the background today. All the birds calling, really quiet and still, which is you know, it's a really nice day. So have we got any questions, Will?
So Tim Collingwood on YouTube asks to know a little bit more about the photography side, which might work quite well with all of this up here.
Yeah. What photography? All of it. So predominantly, well, there's all different ways that we film and photograph wildlife here. So we use, you know, just normal SLR cameras. I've got Canon SLR cameras. I've also got mirrorless Sony cameras that I use. I use those for video and for photography. So lots of different sort of cameras that I physically take around, and then we've got a lot of mounted cameras. These are cameras that are fixed cameras, IP cameras. So these are predominantly designed for security, and we're just trying to pick the best ones out that are designed for security. So the camera here that we're looking at is designed for road traffic. It's a high-speed camera, and when we say high speed, it's high speed in security terms, so it's double speed, so it takes 50 frames a second instead of 25. So yeah, I mean, it does 60 as well for the American market, to double up for there. So you know, each sort of camera, you know, the things that we're looking for is low light abilities with the cameras, and being able to zoom them in and out are the main features that we look for in the IP cameras. But low light is absolutely crucial, and then some of them are high speed. Got the kestrel calling in the background now. It's probably calling at me because I've just put the food out, wanting me to move on.
So Lisa on YouTube asks, how many chicks does Robert put out a day?
Oh gosh, I don't actually count. I get some out of the freezer and I chuck them in a tray, so it can be, I know when I'm away, what do I say to you, Will, 50, 60, it depends on the time of year. If we've got a lot of young birds and a lot of birds we're supporting, it'll be about 50 to 60 a day at the moment. And it's very hard for us to actually administer those chicks in the correct way. People will see me on a night on the live stream, I'm trying to get some food to Howard because he's not quite caught on to the feeding area, so he's been a rescue owl. We've got Drax, who's another rescue owl that has caught on to this area, but she's not quite pulling off enough food here. She's spending a lot of time here, so I'm trying to administer food to her, but anyone can pinch this food at any time. And the thing with the Tawny owl is, especially Bomber, he actually watches me, so he'll sit up. We've got pigeons taking off now. There's been a peregrine around this morning, so anytime these pigeons take off and start flying erratically behind us, is a time to look higher up in the sky to see if we have any peregrines. You spot peregrines, Will, and read me questions at the same time.
Madeline Andrew asks, do barn owls feed mostly at night?
Yeah, so here in the UK it's different in different parts of the world and what their prey items are, but quite often dusk, dawn, they'll come to feed. Got a lorry now. There's never been so many cars past here. This is a really quiet road normally. So normally they're in between dusk and dawn. There's periods in February, March where you can see them any time of day because they're trying to build up their fat reserves for the breeding season ahead. So they've got to gain a certain weight before they can actually breed. A thin barn owl that's had a hard winter isn't going to get into breeding condition if they don't receive the amount of food in. So yeah, but quite often at night, but literally you can see, especially in winter, a barn owl anytime.
Carol Williams asks, how far will barn owl travel from their original nests?
We're looking at around about just less than 10 kilometres, but we've had instances where we've rung barn owls and they've ended up out in the middle of the North Sea on an oil rig, unfortunately passed away. But that's a barn owl that's gone way off the mark, that it's flown from here completely in the wrong direction, ended up hundreds of miles out at sea in an oil rig. But generally barn owls are not a widely travelled bird, unlike things like peregrines, which can go hundreds of miles. The peregrine we study at Saltend Chemical Park in Hull, the female has come about 208 miles from her place where she was born. So yeah, barn owls are they float around, quite gentle, and they're not like a migratory bird.
Nicholas August, one of our moderators, asks, how old is the post?
This post?
It's been here at least 2 years, I can tell you that.
Yeah. This was built, I think, in the spring of, it'll be 2017 or 2018. So it's on five big posts that are about 3 or 4 feet into the ground, and this is solid chalk here, so it's quite an operation putting this in. So we put it in dig the holes into the ground, but as soon as you get this far down we're into solid chalk, so it's a case of an iron bar chopping out through the chalk. And yeah, it's been incredible, but the main thing that we had to do when we built this is actually get it stable. So if this wasn't stable, the cameras would move, and then the footage would be triggered all the time, and we wouldn't end up with the images that we've got. So this is super stable. Everything I build is like over-engineered in a way.
Bluefire Gaming and Cards asks, how do you attach the chicks?
So I attach the chicks at the back just with cable ties on little staples. So it's something I normally only do when I'm doing photography or filming them, but since we've started the live stream, some of these birds, like some of the barn owls, won't even land. They'll grab and go if I just put the food here. So this is really to give everyone an opportunity to view them a lot better, that I keep tying the chicks on through the winter.
Sue Ringle asks, do the animals need to hunt for themselves too?
They do, yeah. They do and they will. So sometimes, like today, I've only just fed the kestrels now, So they've had all morning to do some of their own hunting, and as soon as I don't put enough food out here, they just go off hunting, and that's important. But what we've got species here like the Kestrels dramatically in decline across the country, like really worryingly so. So I drove to Scotland in the summer, and I drove all the way to Scotland and I drove all the way back, and I maybe saw one kestrel. Normally on a trip like that, maybe 15 years ago, I would see upwards of 10 kestrels or more hovering on the side of the motorways. So this is like a massive national decline. In this area just here, we're reasonably good for kestrels, but it's so important to look after these birds. You know, we feed our garden birds. To me, there isn't a lot of difference in between supporting owls and the kestrels and other wildlife. If I see something knocked over on the road, why would I leave it on the road for more cars just to run over it? I'll take it off the road and I'll put it out for the buzzards. I never, unless it's too dangerous to stop, my life's in danger, I always stop and take stuff off the road, even if I'm just throwing it into the field. But often I'll take it home, put it out for our buzzards down the valley and other wildlife, because what happens is that animals get knocked on the road, and then another you know, bird of prey or an owl will go down. Sometimes even eagles have been known to go down onto the roads, and then they get knocked by a car. So it's a vicious circle. So it's important to utilise any animals that are you know, killed on the roads.
So Anna Rose Phillips asks, are the kestrels eyeing up Howie's hole? I believe she's referring to the sycamore stump. Yeah,
that's actually the kestrel's hole. It's just up the hedge line here. So that's actually the kestrel's hole that the Howie's taken over. So yeah, so basically, yeah, there's going to be some fireworks there if Howie doesn't give way. We've had a few spats there, and you know, these are always worrying times. If the female kestrel goes into that nest box, the barn owls are very well equipped and have this huge long reach and a very powerful grip, whereas the kestrels got short little legs but and small feet. So in close combat, the Tawny, the barn owls and Tawny owls would usually win, but the kestrels have just got this mentality that they just go in with full force. They're fearless. So this is one thing that's interesting about the kestrels. If we get deep snow here, how they survive, because if we get deep snow, they're not heavy enough to punch through the snow. They don't have long enough legs to reach through deep snow to catch the prey. They'll actually harass owls that catch prey and actually take the prey off the owls, and they just don't give in. They usually nearly always win. They'll grab the vole and then they'll send the owl into a spiral as they head down onto the floor. And 9 times out of 10 the kestrel wins, even though it's much smaller bird.
So Lucy X asks, are there many foxes?
Yeah, we have foxes around here. Sometimes if we leave the buzzard cam overnight, you'll see the foxes, but in certain areas, you know, we've got, you know, shoots in this area, and the foxes are a little bit scarcer because of that. But we do see foxes. I hear foxes on the night. Tonight will be a perfect night to come out here. Hear the foxes out in the fields calling, and I can see the buzzard just landed in the tree over there now. So there's always plenty to see from here. While I'm putting the food out, I always look around and listen. It's a great place with a great view here.
So Hughes wants to know about talon cramping. I haven't heard of that before.
Talon cramping.
Yeah. So that's something you need to go to the doctor for.
No, this is with birds of prey, that they have like a locking-in mechanism within their feet, and I know a lot about this because not a lot on the science side, but actually physical side. I used to be a falconer in my early sort of teens and early 20s, and yeah, if you get something the size of a buzzard or a goshawk holding on to your hand, yeah, it's something you don't really want, you know. And I've handled eagles before. And the power is, it's indescribable. It's like having mole grips with spikes on the end, and that's because they've got these special parts in the tendons that will actually have a locking mechanism, so they can really grip onto their prey or anything else.
So that's all the questions we've got. The only other thing that people have been asking is for a view around here. So I might try and grab hold of that
and
camera.
people want to see Will.
We'll save that for tomorrow.
Yeah, so we're just gonna take the camera off.
Apologies for a bit of shaky cam.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk us through what we're seeing.
Yeah, so I'll duck out of the way. So this is the view from the garden. It's nice to show them the house maybe as well, if we can get around to there in a second. But this is the view from the garden. So these are Yorkshire Wolds here. So this is our hedge line to our garden, and as we head round, we've got sort of a beautiful landscape. There's a lovely valley in there. But this gets round to my favourite part of the view, where we've got all of these interlocking valleys and the trees in the distance.
So the buzzard cam, if anybody's seen that, is just beyond that hedge line, and then the various nest boxes are just along here.
I'm going to duck out of the way.
Come around here and we can see down here is the maze wall, and then the house just that way.
Yes, that's how the feeding post originally started. This was the idea behind the feeding post. So it's just a steel scaffold pole with a little table on top that I got the wildlife to perch on. So I would literally not climb up here, I would just take that back down to the ground every day and then secure it back up with some food on. So that's how it all started.
I think that'll probably wrap up. Try and get that back in. Sorry everybody.
Just hold it, don't we?
Yeah, just hold it right there.
So thanks for joining me on today's lockdown, and join us again for tomorrow at 2. I don't think we've quite decided what we're doing yet, have we, Will?
Not quite.
Yeah. So we'll think of a plan to show you some more wonderful wildlife tomorrow, but